Hello, this is Abule, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Today, I want to talk about poverty in America. So, since the United States, Donald Trump's administration has threatened to ban TikTok in America because it's not an American owned company, Americans have been fleeing to another Chinese app called Red Note. And in that note, white Americans, this is mostly white Americans, and Chinese people are talking back and forth about the propaganda that each country has spread about the other. And what they say, and I've been listening to this very carefully, is that the propaganda that America has put out about itself to the Chinese people is wrong. But the propaganda that the Chinese people have put out about America is right. And what that means is that America has tried to paint the picture of not only China, but any other country in the world as being third world, third rate, not as good as America. Everything that's popping and that's going on good in the world is in America. But the Chinese are showing a different side of China in this app. They are showing beautiful cities. They're showing where they have free health care. They can buy apparently a cart full of groceries for $3, and they have a life of peace and ease. And these white Americans are listening to the Chinese people, realize that they've been lied to, that the Chinese people are not all walking around pushing a cart with no lights and living in a mud hut, and that everything is going on in America is not all flowery beds of ease. So the white people are now complaining about rent. They're complaining about buying food. They're complaining about having to pay if an ambulance comes to get you. They're complaining about health care. They don't know how they got here. Now, there have been a couple of black people who have been speaking on this app and speaking to white Americans about how they got here, how they got to the point now that they are complaining about food, they are complaining about medical services, they are complaining about paying the rent, they are complaining about things that black people have always complained about and black people have always struggled with. But again, we know how we got there, but they don't understand how they got to this point of poverty. But the reality is, white people have voted themselves into poverty. Every time they have had a chance to choose convenience, ease over racism, they have voted for racism. And that is why they are where they are, because this country is very young. And the white people who came to this country were given all kinds of freebies. But while they were getting the freebies, we were eating the cost. We were doing the work. They were enjoying the fruits of our labor. That's how this country got started. So when black people were freed and they had to go to work for themselves, that changed the whole paradigm. And they have never been able to get over the fact that they are not entitled to free labor, to other people's wages. And they've been angry about this ever since. And that is why, whenever they have a chance to vote against something that they think might help us, they are going to vote against that. And that is how they have voted themselves into poverty, not looking at their situation, but looking at our situation, determined to keep us down so we can't make any progress. They're not making any progress either. Let's look at health care. When President Obama was in office, he came up with the Affordable Care Act. They had it set up where if the government had sponsored that insurance, national insurance for people who didn't have insurance, that it would have been cost efficient for everybody. They voted against that and gave it Obamacare to make sure it didn't pass in Congress. And then when it finally passed under the Affordable Care Act, Donald Trump came in office, and the first thing he tried to do was to do away, to destroy the whole Affordable Care Act. And one justice on the Supreme Court, Justice Roberts, saved the Affordable Care Act for the American people. But they did everything they could to gut it, and the American people were behind it because they didn't want to support anything that President Obama came up with simply because he's black. That's all it was. So they voted for racism over convenience, over affordable health care for everybody. Some of the poorest, sickest white people in this country live in the South. These Southern governors would not expand Medicare so that these people in these rural areas where these hospitals have closed could have health care. They voted against it. So white people continue to vote themselves into poverty and then complain because they don't have anything. And now they because they really think they're better than everybody else in the world, they're doing better than everybody else. And then when they find out that no, you're not doing better than everybody else because there are places where the government actually works to help the people. And that is not the case in the United States. They make us pay through the nose for everything because every time something comes up that might help the people who are against black people, these racist politicians, will come up with some type of scare tactic, turning black people into the boogeyman for white people to be scared of and mad at, so that these politicians can go behind the scene and come up with sweetheart deals for themselves, giving themselves a big raise, giving themselves vacation time, coming up with all kinds of perks for themselves while they are making the American people pay more and more and more. But the white people choose it. They choose the racism over convenience. Every time they have a chance to vote for something that's going to help everybody, they will vote for the racism. They would rather not have the help themselves if they think black people are going to get some help. And that's their problem. That is their problem. And they're just going to have to live with it. Anytime anything comes up about reducing the cost of something, if they think black people are going to be helped by it, they're going to vote against it. They're going to use some word like crime, or he's against crime, or they are raping white women, or some old foolishness like that. But behind the scenes, they are taking away freedoms and they are jacking up the price of everything. Anything that they think that's going to help black people, and it's always in the back of their minds. Anything they think is going to hurt black people, they're going to vote for it. They don't care if it hurts themselves. These white people in America left Europe, left European countries where everybody was white, to come to a country, to a part of the world where there were dark skinned people living. Then they went to Africa, all the way to Africa, to get black people to come and live in their backyard with the aim of robbing them of their humanity and of their labor. So if they wanted to live in a homogenous society where they could be for all for one and one for all, they should have stayed their asses in Europe. So it's very good that they're having this conversation with the Chinese people. China is a homogenous society, which means that all of them are Chinese, they all look alike. So maybe they don't have the same animosity towards each other that people have when they're in a multiracial society. But the main thing that's coming out of this discourse for me between the white people and the Chinese is that white people don't listen. They are not very observant. They see disparities in America between black people and white people, and it never registers with them. They see the suffering of other groups of people and it doesn't register with them. They got to talk to some Chinese people on the other side of the world to realize that they don't pay attention to what they're doing and they don't pay attention to what anybody else is doing. Black people have had to learn how to regulate in this society, and white people are going to have to learn how to do the same thing. We're never going to have what they have in China because those people have a different mindset. China is an old country. America is a young country. Those people in China have been through everything together. And probably one group of people hasn't been able to live off the fat of the other group. So they can stop eyeing China as a model for America, because America will never be that. But hopefully, some of them will move to China, and maybe they will have a mind change and maybe a change of heart, because we certainly haven't seen that from them here in America. But anyway, y'all, look out for this app if you can. And they have them on YouTube. They're coming on YouTube talking about it. So listen to what they're saying, because these people really don't pay attention. They're not observant and they don't listen. And people who don't observe and who don't listen don't learn. So anyway, let me know what you think about the video. Thank you for listening. Give me a thumbs up and have a good day.